I'm KK Reaper.
And I'm Lunar Reaper.
And this is A Frightful Eve. This evening, we will be reviewing Renfield, about a tortured aide to his narcissistic boss, Dracula, who is forced to procure his master's prey and do his every bidding. However, after centuries of servitude, he is ready to see if there's a life outside of the shadow of the Prince of Darkness.
But first, the horror news.
Motionless and White and In This Moment team up for their Dark Horizon tour across North America this summer. With support from Fit for a King and From Ashes to New, the tour will kick off in Connecticut on July 8th and close out August 19th in New York. The co-headlining acts will be alternating closing sets for each night of the 30-show run. Tickets are on sale now.
Spoonful of Sugar is the story of a nanny named Millicent who has taken a break from school to assist parents Rebecca and Jacob with caring for their mute son Johnny that must be kept from the world due to his severe allergies. While our devious nanny continuously drugs the family with LSD to twist their realities, it is only a matter of time before this once peaceful unit is torn apart body and soul. Spoonful of Sugar has been released this past February on Shudder.
Earlier this year, the Australian horror film Talk to Me took the Sundance Midnight Selection by storm. Now, A24 will be bringing it to a theater near you. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. You can watch the trailer now and catch these ghastly encounters on the big screen July 28th.
The horror comedy Summoning Sylvia has earned itself an 8.4 rating on IMDb. Released this past March, the story of the ultimate bachelor getaway. Our groom-to-be is surprised by friends with a weekend in a haunted house, cursed by the spirit of Sylvia and the gruesome murder of her son. This fabulous and flamboyant group, along with the token straight brother-in-law, work together to conjure her spirit and finish what Sylvia once started.
There has been an unexpected update while we patiently await the 5th installment of Stranger Things. Upside Down Pictures will be producing a Stranger Things animated spin-off for Netflix in the interim. Though very little is known about the project at the moment, the Duffer Brothers are of course expected to take the artistry of this series to a very retro place, mentioning it will be akin to Saturday morning cartoons of the 80s era. It will undoubtedly keep us entertained while Eleven and crew gear up for the main series' epic conclusion.
Panic Fest has completed its 10th year in 2023. This horror sci-fi thriller film festival has been attracting fans from all over, as well as offering virtual attendance for all to enjoy. Founded by historic Screenland Theater and Downright Creepy, this festival celebrates feature films, shorts, and live events. Tune in and look forward to it next year.
For more information on these events, check out the links in the description below.
And now for the review of Renfield. You know, me loving Nick Cage as Dracula was not on my 2023 bingo board, but it happened.
It certainly did.
He did a good job.
He did a really good job. I was thoroughly impressed. I did not expect it to come across as Dracula. I kind of thought it was going to be Nick Cage being Nick Cage in a vampire costume.
Yes.
And I was pleasantly surprised to see that it wasn't just that, even though that on its own merit would probably be fairly entertaining too.
That would be great. I thought it was going to be Nick Cage as an exaggerated, like, Dracula in the sense of, like, wow, he's really trying hard, but it came so well.
Yeah.
So naturally.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It felt like he did the Bela Lugosi kind of Dracula like justice.
Yeah.
You know? It didn't feel forced.
No.
Didn't feel like Like there was definitely, I mean, there's always going to be that element of Nick Cage, but it made it more endearing of a character, I think, especially given the plot of this versus traditional Dracula.
Yes.
You know,
is Nick Cage a good actor? Weird.
That is a hot take. I think that's very varied. Yeah, his roles are diverse, and I think it's hard to say whether or not it's just him being him, or if that's just his acting method, and that's like what makes it unique to him.
I think he did a great job. I think it was one of those where, even though he's not nearly as involved in the movie as one would assume, like he was decently in the movie, but I really thought it was going to be a battle amongst Renfield and Dracula, where it really was like Renfield's story featuring Dracula. So I feel like if they had it in any more, we'd be distracted from everyone else because everyone would be so distracted by their confusion and love of Nick Cage's Dracula.
That is true, yeah. And I mean, that's not to take away from Renfield's performance and Awkwafina and, you know, all the leading roles. I actually had, like, as many characters as there were converging, I did enjoy, like, to whatever extent the depth of, you know, it's horror comedy, so they're not going to make these characters very deep or brooding. But for what it was worth, I think that they did a really good job writing-wise for those characters. And, you know, the play off from Renfield to Dracula and all the other stories that are involved, I think played out very well.
I know we disagreed on that.
Yeah, well, I know, and it's not that I disagree with your point of that there was too many little aspects going in there.
I just thought there were a lot of side stories, and there were some where I'm like, if this was missing from the movie, I wouldn't feel like it was lacking. Like, I know we specifically discussed beforehand, Awkwafina's character, I feel like her sister was just so thrown in, like her sister and her dad's backstory was so thrown in there.
Yeah.
Like at first I thought the mafia was a reach, but then when I pondered it, it made sense. But as far as like, then you just throw it in, it's like, oh, dead dad and sister to be saved, but we don't really know anything about the sister. So when she is the hostage, it's really hard to care about the hostage that you've heard 2 sentences from.
Yeah.
Things
well,
like
I do think that was sort of just like a plot element to move things along rather than it being something that we really needed to focus on. You know, like it's basically Awkwafina's incentive to go after what she's going after and to be as involved with Renfield as she is, you know? Not so much that you care really much about the backstory of the father being killed by the mafia and all that, but it ties her to the mafia. It ties her to Dracula when Dracula joins forces with the mafia, which, now that I'm saying it out loud, is freaking hilarious.
I think the dad thing can go as far, but I still stick with the whole, like, she still wanted justice anyway, and just throwing the sister in there. Like, the threat of Renfield losing and that success being gone is enough. And that now that they have to have the sister in there, I still, like, that was...
I guess just the fact that she's trying to save the city alone would be enough in that regard. Yeah, I could kind of see that.
Yes. That was my main, like, that was not necessary.
Right.
But everything else, like, it was campy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We loved the look of it.
Yeah.
Color palette was extremely Halloween-y. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, when we were sitting in the movie theater, if you told me it was October. Like, it feels like a very October movie.
Yeah. And that's actually, now that I'm thinking back, I think one of the things that drew me to that, with that campy style, is the lighting and the scenery that they have.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of akin to Rob Zombie's Monsters.
Yes.
With the way that it's lit with
the greens,
vibrant
the purples,
greens, right?
Oranges.
Yeah. And like you said, very Halloween-y in that regard. It's like a Halloween haunted house decorated up.
Yes.
But yeah, I was surprised between that and the special effects with Nick Cage going from disintegrated vampire to the formation that he goes through and stuff. All of that was like really, really much more well done than I thought it was going to be for this kind of film.
And I think it illustrates a great way of the whole, like, you know, him doing the support group and illustrating that it's an abusive relationship. And I feel like everything that anybody knows about abusive relationships is that there's cycles. And that was such a great way of saying, like, oh, Dracula usually has these bits where he just goes off and kills everybody, gets himself, like, physically destroyed as possible.
Right.
Heals himself up and does it again. And just seeing him start as this mangled mess from bursting into flames after exploding that one priest/pope.
Right, yeah.
So seeing him, like, being an absolute mess and being at his worst and treating Renfield horribly, to him slowly getting, you know, more put together and independent, you know.
And the fact that Renfield just continues to help him regardless of how awful he treats him.
Yes, and, like, seeing that he entertains Renfield's behavior when he's at his weakest, where when he was at full power, he just found someone else anyway.
Right.
So, stuff like that.
That's
where I thought it was really
a good point in the, you know, the healing process, I think, in the very beginning versus, like, once he's that gross-looking, like, hobbled version of himself, and Renfield's like, oh, well, I was trying, and he just slices his stomach open.
Yeah.
And then heals him anyway. It's sort of like the, you know, I could kill you.
I could kill you.
Right.
That's what this movie's really about. Self-respect.
I do like... I like that take on it. I do like the fact that and I think a lot of people are going to give it slack because it just feels like this jumbled, like, what am I watching kind of film, for the fact that, like, Dracula joins the mafia and all this craziness. But to me, I think that that's what makes this so, like, innovative. It's like, it's so different from the standard story that you think you're going into with, like, Renfield just fighting off his demons with Dracula and trying to get out of his shadow. And, you know, he teams up and he makes his other Renfields, and he talks about, like, I don't need you. I can have an army of you, you know? It's much more in depth, again, than I thought this movie could go.
And it was funny.
Yeah.
It was really, really funny.
Yeah. And you mentioned before about that being, kind of, I think that the action in and of itself was pretty funny. The kills and the insanity, the brutality of it all. I
still love that one guy getting his face ripped off and, like, that cheesy, like, skeleton. Yes. I love it. Yeah. I love that stuff. I thought it was so good. Arms getting chopped off with, was it a platter?
Oh, yeah, the serving platter. Yep.
Oh, God.
That's what the
people exploding. Literally.
Yeah. that can, and I think that even just with when I saw the trailer with the skeleton Dracula, when he first kind of poofs, the fact that it, like, you can very clearly tell it's like a puppeteered almost kind of skeleton, and that right off the bat I was like, I love that, you know. That reminds me of, like,
very goosebumpy.
Yeah. My first thought was Return of the Living Dead. The skeleton on the slab.
That's better.
Like, which, of course, you know, practical is best.
Yes, I can feel myself rotting.
I can feel myself rot as the freaking spine is just bouncing back and forth.
That's a good movie. I thought this was just the practical effects, the blood and guts. I know you weren't crazy about the CGI blood.
I'm always gonna have a chip on my shoulder about CGI.
Stick about that.
Yeah,
I still thought it was so good. I think I was surprised by that. I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was.
Right. Well, like you said, I should say, the fact that it felt like the writers went in, they were like, here's all the action, and we're just gonna throw some plot in here, you know, like, but you know, for what it's worth in that regard, I do think that at least Renfield's story, I love the sequence of Dracula finding out exactly what's going on and meeting him at his apartment.
Oh, yeah,
And then he starts trying to read the self-help book as almost like it's the Bible, like trying to, my daily affirmations and all that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Beautiful. I think they did a great job just illustrating their relationship. I know you were talking about how they really took it from plot one and almost took you through the Dracula movies, like the styles of how he's been portrayed in the past, as far as cinematic goes.
Yep.
Black and white.
Yeah, that the fact that they threw in the black and white thing, and that was one of the I remember seeing, because there was they do a couple of the different trailers and stuff, and one of the last ones I think also included the black and white sequence, and you have that iconic, the shot of Dracula where it's all shadowed except for his eyes and stuff, and they cinematically they captured that very well.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the fact that, again, like Nick Cage as Dracula felt very real to the original Draculas before him. Like, it pulled it off. And I mean, especially just with the black and white and with the shading and all that, you look at it at a glance and you wouldn't even know the difference.
Nope.
Which I think is spectacular for something like that. But yeah, going from, the centuries that they were together and showing that black and white footage and kind of jumping into the now makes it all the more interesting. It's Renfield and Dracula forever and now in the modern day, and putting this new spin on it makes it almost kind of like it's legacy rather than like a one-off film,
It's just funny to see Dracula as essentially summed up as a petty boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
In a sense. It's very, very funny to hear someone be like, he doesn't listen to me, and sometimes I'm important to him, and then sometimes he doesn't even see me, and it's just so funny to think that, like, essentially that's exactly what Dracula is.
Oh, yeah.
If we, go back to even the movies before
Classic
this.
narcissist.
Classic narcissist.
Yeah.
And he never dies.
And he never dies. That's, any servant's worst nightmare in that regard.
I didn't think this was going to be a bad movie, and I did anticipate it, and I was excited for it, but I'm still surprised how much I like it.
Yeah, and I already see, online people giving it slack, and,
people love to hate things.
Yeah. We have to remind you once again that this is our show, and this is our rating.
And we have terrible taste.
And we have sometimes, not all the time. Don't stop watching the show. But in cases like this, I mean, and especially with horror comedy and the fact that we love that so dearly, and we love cheesy, and we love that. If you love that,
look at us.
Then
you know what you're gonna get.
You're right.
Luna.
Exactly.
You know what you came for.
KK and Luna Reaper.
What, Bartholomew?
What is the final verdict?
Renfield was about as zany and bizarre as you'd expect a Nick Cage turned vampire film to be, bringing on all the bloody campiness that make horror comedies so chaotically fun to watch.
There are some elements of this film that make you wonder just what substances the production team were on in the writing room. The mess of concepts strung together with Cage at the center of it isn't for everyone, but it was certainly for us, and for that, we give this film an 8 out of 10.
That's our show. Thanks for tuning in.
And until next time, Ghosts and Ghouls, have a frightful eve.